I like to share the most important clips with you guys of things that really, really make a difference. And when I saw Dave Pensado talking to Andrew Sheps about the most critical things in the space of a few minutes, when you start as an engineer, a mix engineer, everybody does the same thing. They try to make everything perfect because they think that's the way to go. But actually, in doing that, it's not a negative, so to speak, if you're in the early stages. Because when you start doing that, you learn what you need to learn in order to be able to use it creatively later once you realize perfection ain't the way. So it's Dave went through this. Everybody goes through this. There's so much here. Dave's talking about Michael Jackson and a tip he got from him. You don't want to miss this. So check this out. Fair use for teaching purposes.
I can make a record sound good. As you know, that's not that hard. It's the intangible elements in a piece of music that are important, and now more than ever, because now more than ever, we're not making records for people that own $80,000 stereo systems. We're making records for people that use earbuds. We're making records for people that listen on their laptop, on and on and on. And so if you can't reach them emotionally, you're losing half of your ability to get that record to do something.
Yeah.
But a lot of the records I make, I can feel the limitations that the headphones are putting on the singer, because maybe his headphone mix where he wanted to be loud, but he was too loud, and so he sang softer, or he didn't hear the articulation of the ends. And so, not dropping names, but when I worked with Michael Jackson, I said, Mike, why do you do the all that stuff? He goes, well, Dave, a lot of people think that where you start the note is important, and it is, but the most important thing is where you end the note. Where you end a note in music gives you more emotion than where you start the note. And I don't know that I agree with that, but I believed it. And so I always try to not make perfection, because perfection and structure are the complete enemy of creativity. You show me perfection, I'll show you no creativity. But enhancing those imperfections in such a way that they become as musical as that first song you fell in love with as a kid, which probably had multiple imperfections.
Yeah.
And then when you become an engineer and you learn how to make perfect records, that's what you gravitate towards. We all do, I did. But you come out of that with a skill set, but that's when you can have the tools to really manipulate the emotional elements that you're giving in a production. And so you might slide the snare drum back a millisecond in the verses on the 2 and the 4. And then you might push the kick a little bit on the 1 if you've got kind of a little bit of a funky sound. And in funk music, the 1's always the beat. And then if you're doing reggaeton, those little in between beats are everything. When I first moved to LA, I was in 1990. I was not very good. I was not very good at all. And I didn't know you could put stuff on the stereo bus. I didn't like the sound of compression. And I can't remember how many number 1 records I had that year, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11. I can't remember. It was a lot. But what I did have was the ability to make somebody feel something through music. If you ask any of my ex-assistants and my current assistants, it's not unusual for me to be them walking into the control room early in the morning, morning for us, and just see me crying. I mean, I teared up just thinking about some music, you know. And if you can't have that feeling towards music, how can you get it in your music? So
right.
I think if you don't feel like you have that emotional content in your skill set, don't try and get it. Just go back to those memories before you knew anything about music and analyze those songs and why you liked them, you know. Every time you hear those songs, you go back to the moment you heard those songs.
Yeah.
For me, there's certain frequencies that give me emotion. 350 to 400 gives me emotion. 40 cycles just gives me a boner. And that Fletcher Munson area, let's pretend like that area from about 1.2 to maybe 4. You add that into anything and it gets louder without necessarily getting louder.
Yeah.
And that's acceptable for me. I don't want anybody that doesn't like mid-range to listen to my records, because that's where the emotion is. And then the top end gives you a sense of quality, a sense of kind of old time one singer songwriter emotions, because it was a purity up in the top end back then that made you that you got drawn into Cat Stevens, you got drawn into these amazing, and then that low mid knock. A lot of people take it out, but if you listen to Jason Joshua, Manny American, they're brilliant at putting that frequency into the process, and it gives a roundness to the bottom end. If I say this, if I say here's an EQ curve, and this is the low end, this is the top end, and here's volume, here's frequency. Did I turn the low end? This is the low end. Did I turn it down, or did I turn the high end up? You don't know. You can't tell, because you just can't tell. So if turning this down makes this go up, use that as a tool.
Yeah.
So if you want to put more top end, I love top end in mixes because it gives me the opportunity to have clarity, depth, and a certain type of feeling. But I can't use the top end I want until I enhance the low end. So it's a wonderful, wonderful puzzle because I love both. So my mixes tend to look like a smiley curve with a volcano in the middle.
Yeah.
All right. You guys need to watch this interview. In my opinion, this may be the most important. Every single one of these I watch, I think to myself, we are so blessed to be in this era where we can have access to these kind of conversations. That was so much information. That's probably one of the longer clips I've used, but that was huge. So many things he just said there. If you want to make the top end as nice and bright as you want, you're going to have to deal with the low end. The low end, and either enhance that or bring that down to make the top end higher. Use those as tools. His curve usually looks like a smiley face with a volcano in the middle because he's pushing 400, 500 for the low mid knock. He said so many things that were amazing. His conversation with Michael Jackson, to focus really on where you end the notes on phrases and words when you're dealing with singers, when you're editing, when you're mixing. Those are the elements that are the most critical for emotion, coming out of Michael Jackson's mouth. That's huge. I feel like there's so much within what he just said that just sitting back and unpacking it all that's a week's worth of lessons right there. If you're not getting that emotional feeling, go back to the song you heard as a kid. Figure out those songs that moved you when you were younger and focus on that rather than everything you learned. You need to reconnect with the person who fell in love with doing this. As soon as you fall back in love with what you're doing, you'll be able to make work that really hits on a whole nother level. Because it's so much more than turning knobs. It's so much more than getting things to not, bug you and getting things to sit right together. The technical aspects are the tiniest part of this. The biggest part of this is making sure you are aware when there's emotion in it and not sterilizing it and getting rid of the emotion. These are the important things, because especially today when everyone's listening on headphones and earbuds, if you don't got emotion in it, you're going to lose everybody. Nobody wants perfection. Perfection's the enemy of creativity. All right? This is just so amazing. I'm happy to share it with you guys. I hope you dug it. If you did, do me a favor, drop some imperfect comments into the comment section. I'd love to hear them. We don't need perfect. We need creative. All right? I want some creative comments in that comment section. Drop them if you can. Also, hit the like button if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this.